I'm still in conversation with Dr. Pheko, political economist, as well as Mzwandile Mbeje, who is SABC's political editor. Of course, Dr. Pheko, I want to just take back some of the words that President Cyril or highlight some of the words that President Cyril Ramaphosa said. We have responsibility not to allow the G20 to be weakened. I mean, that's also a very powerful statement and very clear in terms of where it's positioned and where it's directed. How pivotal a moment, despite the fact that some of these discussions, as we've been saying, are not binding by these nations, but in a mission-critical role for solidarity. I know we also spoke about it also could be symbolic, but from a practicality and point of view, it was a strong message to deliver.
No, it really was. And I mean, a few of the key points, if I may, I mean, the solidarity, equality, sustainability, debt relief, and inequality reduction. And that segues very well into the SDGs, which of course we know we are not performing, the world in general isn't, performing very well in. But it does iterate a commitment to a developmental agenda, one that recognizes that we have great, a particular context of socioeconomics in the majority world, one that is to do with our high levels of unemployment or underemployment, also to do with the landlessness. Land is an issue, agrarian reform as an issue, food security, food sovereignty, and food democracy as important issue. There's also the piece around care economy and care economics and social reproduction, and that has become one of the rallying cries over the last few years, hasn't it? How care economics are actually a huge part of how we view the economy, the market economy, and I think we have COVID to thank for expanding the broader vocabulary around that. I mean, feminist economists like myself had been talking about that for many years, but for that to be now mainstreamed on an agenda such as this is really important. And I think the messaging even of the declaration is one that's very centered in this particular context. The other thing, of course, is that it's linked to the work of the Sherpas, to your question earlier on, the important work that they have done, consensus building. Yeah,
and I'm glad you mentioned Sherpa, because any moment now we will be taking our viewers to a media briefing that Minister Ronald Lamola, Durka Minister, will be having. I mean, his role was pivotal, particularly when you look at how everything had been structured from the time South Africa took over the baton from Brazil on the 1st of December 2024 and ran with this program. It was watertight. I mean, the stakes were high. I mean, just your observations in terms of how Durka particularly managed this particular G20?
I think they've been really excellent in how they've been arranging. Remember, it's not just been activities confined to DERCO. You've had a wide range of activities. At the center, by the way, of what the G20 is, finance ministers and the central bank governors. So those who have taken part, and a number of other fields which have been incorporated into how the G20 needs to look like. But then there had to be a leader of the persons responsible for that. In this instance, that is DERCO that you're speaking about. I mean, Ronald Lamola has really been pivotal. I mean, he's been crisscrossing the world, and then, of course, has really been able to shepherd the way, perhaps, where South Africa needed to be. I guess it shows that I think there's a lot that South Africa has learned. We may be relatively a young democracy, relatively, but there's a lot that we've learned. And I think our participation in a number of these international organizations has given really us so much experience. Because we have had a number of big occasions in this country. I mean, it may not necessarily be related to the G20, but the fact of the matter is that we've hosted the 2010 World Cup, Soccer World Cup, which is one of the biggest events. Oh, by the way, USA is hosting the same next year. I don't know whether there are similarities there. So, but that tells you that when you then look at the issues around organization of bigger occasions. So then you are able to come to the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Pheko, I'm going to come back to you because I really want to talk about the role of multilateral banks. We haven't really been speaking a lot about their responsibility, particularly when we look at developing countries and their debt burden.